Hello and welcome to the studio. Let me introduce you to a new topic which I think is going to keep us busy for a few weeks to come. You can see in my sketchbooks some of my preliminary drawings for lino cuts, and there's a page of drawings here where I was looking at a robin, and I don't know what this is actually. I was talking in class about drawing a bird, and I don't know if you can see quite faintly there. There's an oval shape drawn and another oval here, because I think that's probably quite a useful starting point when drawing any bird, is to work out the larger basic shapes before you start adding detail. Well, I've printed out one of the photographs that I showed you before, just so that I can draw on it a little bit to explain what I mean about the basic shapes. But when we look at a photograph, very often we see the detail, you know, the shape of the eye, the shape of the beak, the detail of the feathers. But to begin a drawing, we need to look for basic shapes, simple shapes. And I think very often, looking at the contour of the profile of a bird, we see this curve and this curve. And often, when I've seen people drawing birds, those two curves get put like this, and then the head and the body added. And we kind of end up with a bird that looks like it's been squeezed across there. Whereas if we draw that curve in again and then identify where the other curve comes, in relation to the first curve, it's over here, and the back of the head will come round to meet it, and then we'll go off down the body, which is quite often fairly straight through to the tail. So that's one way of looking at it. Another way is to try and find, let me just get a white pencil, try and find those interlocking ovals. There's one. There's the other. And the tail. Continue a line through the tail with the blackbird in this position. That's quite an interesting guideline. And then tapering the body in towards the tail would give me my basic shapes, and then taking a guideline through the beak to find out what relationship that has to this oval. You see how I've simplified it down to those basic shapes and guidelines. So these are the things I want to draw. When I begin my drawing, I want to put in shapes that you can't see when you look at the subject. Oh well, lines that you can't see, but you may begin to identify the shape through using this is his tummy, and his back is quite straight, so I'm drawing more of the underneath part of this oval. There's the head, and here I'm going to have the curve, so this curve here. Oops, I can't zoom in anymore. This curve that leads to the beak on my photograph. Into the tail. Can't really see much of this bird's tail because it's right on the side. And then where the feet come out, it's like a little bit of a chunkier bit there before you get into the narrow part of the leg. There he is. Can't see his feet because they're buried in the privet hedge. Now the eye must be here, but I can't actually see it in the photograph. So this is where I need to switch to a photograph where I can get more information. Let's find Alex's photo. Whoops. There we are. Now that bird I'm looking more up from below. So I'm going to bring the eye down a little bit, but it helps me to see how close and how large the eye is. Got quite big eyes, blackbirds, especially accentuated with that orange ring round them on the male. And then how close it comes to the beak, sort of comes back into the head. You get so many different expressions in the bird depending on how they've perked their head forward. So his head's much more perked out because he's obviously looking around him, checking for predators all the time. Got a lot of anxiety have birds when they're bringing up their young. They're on the high alert, looking out for predators and danger. Always. So little things like the position of the tail and whether the head is stretched out or this one's pushed more back into the body so the bird looks quite restful. That's quite useful there where I can see the wing folded back more similarly to the bird in my photograph. You can see his beak as well. It's looking a little bit crow-like, I think, my blackbird. Got a little way to go before I understand enough about my subject to start on my finished piece of work. So, do you start watching the birds, or carry on watching the birds? I'm sure you probably are already. See if you can get any photographs. Even blurry photographs are better than nothing. Or better still, draw from life. That would be amazing. See what you can discover. about a subject that you thought you knew. I thought I knew what a blackbird looked like, but I'm realising that there are one or two specifics that I really need to investigate before everything falls into place and says blackbird. Just going to put a little bit of context for it. Sitting in my hedge. There we go. Have fun with your bird drawings.